Przepraszam za chwilkę przerwy, ale
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for this break,
wymyśliłem, że
but always I have to come up with an idea, and this time I decided to present a live demonstration.
prezentację. Znaczy będę wykonywał na żywo
So
pewne
I will
czynności.
perform
Mam nadzieję, że mi
live
się
certain
po raz kolejny uda.
activities, and I do hope I
Ja już wiem, że nie zdążę
managed
dojść do
successfully
tak
this
to
time.
bywa.
Again, I know already that I won't be able to come up with all the stuff I prepared. There's not enough time before coffee break, but I do my best to present as much as possible. I took this topic from a different angle.
Nie jestem do końca
I'm
przekonany,
not really
czy
sure
wyzwanie, które
whether the
pokażę, jest
challenge I want
ekstremalne.
to show you is the extreme
Dla
one.
mnie już nie jest.
Well, not that extreme for me at least, but step by step. In the beginning, brief history.
Znaczy w towarzystwie Rafała
Together with Rafał,
kilka lat temu
a few years ago, we presented our first BIM project done in Open BIM, made by Vostok and M.A.D engineers, an eco project. And this was the eco project. That was the Academy of Fine Arts in Warsaw. The building is still there, and it was handed over. And well, let me just say that as the company responsible for the construction design, I was only once at the site, and the architects were going there, visiting sites. They have to go all the time because they come up with fancy ideas all the time.
Podczas tego spotkania parę lat temu
So during a meeting a few years ago,
byliśmy młodzi, gniewni, to był
we
nasz
were
pierwszy projekt
young
i mocno wszystko
guys. That was our first project. We were
krytykowaliśmy,
criticizing heavily everything, saying this didn't work, that didn't work, and in this work
wytykaliśmy jakieś pozycje, które nie
flow,
do końca nas
we pointed out some areas that did not satisfy us in the online description. The bad luck was that Victor, the president of the company, was there listening to us. But I know now that we were young and silly. Over time, we gained more knowledge and experience. But anyway,
parę rzeczy się nie zmieniło.
some things didn't change.
Workflow,
Workflow
w swojej firmie
that
bądź wśród kilku firm zazwyczaj propagujemy,
we promote in our company, in other companies as well, looks the same or remain the same over years. We have the construction project in Poland. It doesn't always fit to BIM, doesn't fit to the designs that we prepare in BIM technology. Let me just remind you.
W projekcie budowlanym zazwyczaj, a czy generalnie nawet
In the construction project or in the BIM project as such, everything starts with ArchiCAD. In this case, it was ArchiCAD because all these workflows were done for ASP project. With the design project, we prepare the core, the construction, the architecture, and then it is then divided, split into teams responsible for installations, constructions, and the heart of the model remains the same. This is the
modelu architektury.
Architecture model, namely. At this stage, we still have the referential models from ArchiCAD, and here they are also available in maps. Over years, all the program we use for coordination is Tekla Insight and Tekla Insight, and I will present it based on the example of new project. In the execution phase, we have the models for each and every industry. Architecture stays with the construction. Constructor has her own construction. Maps have the installation. So there is always the biggest mess between the architecture and construction. In architecture, we have our own construction and our own structure, and it's always big problem so that we come up together with the design problem. Maps usually don't create any problems because the software is available on the market and this software is actually dealing with the collisions.
Przez te 5 lat było troszeczkę projektów, oczywiście.
Over the last 5 years, we've had some projects, but the current one,
Wydawało mi się, że będzie najciekawszy.
as I believed, would be the most interesting one. We run it, implement it in a group of companies who belong to the BEAM cluster. This is the association that brings together companies, the scientific, academic institutions, the business environment, and local governments.
Wśród tych firm te, które tutaj są, zajmowały się
So the companies mentioned here were responsible or were cooperating for individual industries. Us as architekci were responsible for the construction architecture on ArchiCAD, pracownia projektowa, responsible for installations using DDSCAD, Agardo, the calculations and estimates using BEAM estimate, and our company BEAM manager responsible for actually controlling.
Huczno nazwana pozycja BIM Manager.
Well, it was called BEAM Manager. So we were always using the Tekla BEAM inside software. So that's the project for a nursery, for a crash. Not as big as the skyscrapers presented by our colleague, but skyscrapers are still ahead of us. So this is city of Krosno nursery. There, this is the software I'm showing is just the free software. Based on that, we just present kind of visualization of project. We are detecting collisions and we exchange information. And potentially we can use here software for presentations. The most frequent case is this is the most frequent case that we look at the project. I really like this function, the scissors, which is actually copied from Tekla construction. BIM Manager, what is he doing? He can use this kind of softwares. He can also use more advanced tools. We don't have them, we don't use them yet, but in such projects, I believe we are able actually working on this software. And basically, we're looking for the collisions, detecting them, checking if everything makes sense, whether we see any irregularities here. Right now, I have well, maybe I show it step by step. This is the installation with the zones, individual zones. So here you see all the installations. In this project, for the first time, we were coming up with the electric installation. It's not well visible, but maybe I will show you later different aspects of it. Here we also have so installations, then construction. The structure which was made in ArchiCAD, quite atypically. That's the whole structure of building, which is the core of a structure made in ArchiCAD, and the architecture without the surrounding, so that without the surrounding environment, so that it's better visible. So here you can see all the zones, you can view these. So generally speaking, process. In this process, first of all, we are looking for atypical areas. And our experience proved that certain rules are not applicable automatically. Maybe other softwares would go for it, for such automatization, but many things we can detect while viewing this structure. So then we have to check whether things that I see actually are right, correct. This project is almost ready. I'm just trying to find an error here. Maybe, okay, maybe here. So these are the finishing layers. Definitely shouldn't stick out here. So what I'm doing now, I just create so-called BCF, a node mentioned by my colleagues already, and I write that these finishing layers shouldn't stick out.
Ja sobie zrobię jedną taką notatkę, żeby nie
So I just prepare this note. I define who should receive it, let's say architects, and that's the way we create the nodes. And we can prepare many of them. Then I send them to the recipients. In this case, these are the architects. They open the memo, this node, and they check what's going on, what's wrong. They remove the problem and attach files, send it to me. Then I just close this tag. And, well, case completed, and so on and so forth. So in case of atypical errors detection, this is the way we do it, using various ideas like scissors, viewing installation, the sewage system, water system in red. Let's switch off the architecture and let's switch off construction space because they are disturbing. Then the construction will be visible in the more realistic color. The installations, I'm staying only with sewage and water system, and then I check whether the construction fits this specific installation. So we have many of such ideas, and this is how we work. We came up over time with a checklist that helps us to check models this way. I will not show you collisions. The software allows actually to check collisions between IFC, between industries. It allows to detect collisions in the highlighted areas. For instance, you can highlight the pipelines with a given diameter and then check collisions and collisions between architecture and a very specific industry, for instance. I recalled one thing, but I can't find it now to show it to you. Maybe I show it later. So this is our daily work. The workflow that I showed you earlier, I would like to show you in a different way today, and in more details.
Workflow pomiędzy konstruktorem a architektem.
So between the architects and other stakeholders, where we exchange the files, we share those files. But how can we do it so that the constructor and the architect can be able to communicate? Now, these are some of the key elements that are very often problematic in the models we get. These are typical errors that relate to this workflow. First of all, multi-layered structures. Very important to define the core in multi-layer walls. Secondly, saying whether it's a load-bearing wall or a partition wall. And then with literally a single click, we can select those parameters. And a very important thing when sharing IFC files, that item at the top is very important. This is to use BREP, which is a very precise rendition of geometry. It's very important if your files are to be correct. As a result of these tools,
Właśnie może nie, bo to jest widok z Archicada i to jest widok z Archicada.
We get this. Now, both of these are ArchiCAD views,
Jakimiś tam warstwami dostajemy momentalnie model,
but the one on the right is a model which can be sent to the constructor, who will then develop their own construction model in their own
nie
software.
wykorzysta tego w innym oprogramowaniu, jakby tworząc z tego modelu dokumentację. To taki niuans, ale bardzo ważny. Należy stworzyć własny model.
So it's very important. They've got to develop their own model in that. Now,
Zrobić poprawnie model konstrukcyjny pod
I've never come across an architect developing a model 100% correctly for us, the constructors. And I understand it's only natural. Architects have many different things to think about, so this construction model would be difficult for them to develop properly. Now, this is done in ArchiCAD, and we've got the construction model on the right-hand side.
Architekt kosztorysant.
Now, on the interface between the architect and the cost estimator. And again, we are starting from the same thing on the left, but how we approach this different type of things, where you have to focus on something else. Now, the core would not be that important here, but what is important is, for example, this. That's wall plaster inside 1 centimeter, mineral wall 20 centimeters,
Osoby, która będzie robiła.
and other elements that are important for whoever is doing the cost estimate.
Tutaj jest jakby powielenie informacji dla bardziej zaawansowanych.
For the more advanced people, some of this information is there, and we always suggest we should add the thickness of each layer or structure in its name.
Tak się stało, nie wiem dlaczego, ale te
Somehow
się nie przenoszą do IFC.
that doesn't import to IFC, so it's then a bit of a problem to give a correct cost estimation.
Dalsza jakby porcja informacji,
Now,
które są zawarte,
as for further information that
które są zawarte w modelu architektonicznym i chcemy je przenieść
needs to be included in the electronic models and then is useful for the cost estimator. Now, this is an example of
Klasyfikacja i właściwości. Akurat też przy ścianie.
properties and classification, again for a wall,
Parametry sobie dodać.
and we can add different parameters
Jakby poprzenosić
and map
z
them,
miejsc i wrzucić
so we can
do
transfer them from other places
Może to być troszeczkę skomplikowane. Chodzi o to, że
and include in these parameters. It may be a bit complicated, but you can see this name
ale też jeden wzięło się w ogóle
at S1, but it was taken from another place, which was the name of the multi-layer structure here, right? So that information has been mapped to this name field. Few people do it correctly, but it's very important for a good cost estimation.
Kolejna de facto niektóre slajdy się powtarzają.
Some of these slides are the same.
Mamy też konwersję geometrii do IFC.
Geometry conversion to IFC,
Struktur warstwowych i profilów.
also the breakdown of layered structures into their constituent components.
Możemy wykonać bardzo szczegółowy
As a result, if we do it correctly, then the cost estimate will be very detailed and very precise.
Jesteśmy w stanie bardzo dobrze określić, ile
We
tynku
would be able to say in a lot of detail of how much paint or how much other materials will be needed.
Źle się to dla mnie skończy. Pokażę to na innym modelu.
Now I'm going to show it on a different model.
Jeszcze rzeczy, bo ja w sumie nie mam dużo czasu, więc nie będę tutaj takich najczęstszych błędów wymieniał.
I will not discuss the most common errors in modeling. We don't have time for that.
Związane z architekturą.
But one thing that is
Często nie jest łączona w całości.
not very often done properly. These should be two different elements of this railing, because this would be under beams, this would be under walls.
Jeżeli jeszcze ktoś klasyfikacji dobrze nie
If you've not got your classification done right,
modelowanie
so modeling
to na modelowaniu trzeba bardzo uważać, ponieważ to jest materiał, który idzie dalej.
Modeling is something you have to do very carefully because somebody else is going to be using the results of this work. So this, for example, should be a single element because this is the price is estimated on the base of the running meter cost.
Zrobiłem tutaj taki sam sobie błąd. To nie jest belka, tylko tutaj jest ściana i to właściwie jest okej.
Now, so this is a wall, really, but this is a beam. Now, if this was a beam, let's say this is a beam, so how do we do it to model this beam? Now, for some years we did it like that, but starting from the new model, we model it like this.
Ten sposób nie jest, ten sposób jest poprawny, ponieważ wysokość belki
We thought was correct. We've got the profile and the height, which is correct, and the width.
możemy policzyć metry sześcienne.
And we can calculate the cubic meters of concrete
Płyty.
and the square meters of the slab.
Jeżeli w procesie projektowym generalnie bardzo często się dużo rzeczy zmienia. I
And
tutaj
a lot of things change in the process normally. So this table will change on many occasions, and then you'd always have to keep adjusting this. So a better way is to have a beam like this, and
belki w taki sam sposób jak tutaj.
so it works just like that one,
Cięciem to już w każdym programie są różne cięcia.
but you have a different line of
Betonu,
cut. So it's cut off here.
profil belki mamy
There's a bit
zachowany.
less concrete here. The profile of the beam stays the same,
I możemy zrobić możemy zrobić wycenę.
and you can have a cost estimation both for this and for this. So if you do it like this,
Generalnie
then
modelowanie powinno
it's more resistant to changes.
zmianoodporny. Model
Change resistance is something we should aim at.
w sposób sensowny.
Now, I'm not sure if I've made any sense in my explanation, if anybody understood anything.
Nie wiem, czy my z powrotem za parę lat nie wrócimy do innego sposobu.
Maybe in a few years' time we'll go back to the original method, but this is what our life looks like in our work.
Mamy
Now.
model, który wysyłamy
So this is the model that we can send to the cost estimator,
pod względem geometrii, pod względem ilości danych, pod
and in terms of the
ilości
quantity of data and the number of objects and geometries
względem
and
rozbicia struktur.
the breakdown of structures, it is completely different. In the one, I don't have to break it down. In the other, I do.
Kolejny aspekt to spójność informacji.
How about the cohesion of information? A very common mistake in the models we are getting to provide cost estimation, those models are not in line with the documentation. So for example, I'll have an A-axis wall in documentation, the same wall is B-axis in the model, or the other way around.
Odłączają, tak, bo to jest taką mamy mentalność.
So
Odłączamy, mamy wdrożenie, wszystko się pali, odłączamy rysunek od modelu i jedziemy na płasko. Standard.
So this is how they normally do it, like you can see on the left-hand side, you just disconnect the things and then go flat on.
Bardzo często
But what I ask people to do is to be careful about it, so that the information of the drawing should be in line with what we've got here. Like, for example, the element door,
Zgadzał się. Tu akurat nie widzę. Symbol drzwi.
the ID symbol, and all the parameters should be the same. And you don't have to do it manually. It should be a parameter on the drawing. So if I change it here, it changes on the drawing and in the model. So if now I have this
i będę chciał znaleźć
model,
te drzwi
and I want to find this door
o nazwie, jak
Called-
D18.
D18, if I remember
Ja bym
correctly.
chciał ten parametr znaleźć w nazwie, bo przed chwilą znalazłem 18 rekordu.
Now I've found 18 records, but I'm looking for the name.
Te drzwi
So this particular door has the correct name, D18,
I jakbym chciał skorzystać
And
i dodać do pozycji
if I
odporność,
wanted to,
to
for example,
jest,
add
mogę sobie spokojnie
the fire resistance class, then I can take it from
Można
IFC
temat
and use it.
architektury.
So that's it for
Wspomnę jeszcze
architecture.
tutaj chwilkę o elektryce, która
Now about
tutaj,
electrical
akurat,
installation.
była dla nas nowością całkowicie.
That was a brand new thing for us because we did not have a BIM
Podobna sytuacja.
electricity model.
Mamy jakieś tutaj urządzenia. Ja się
It's
dokładnie
quite similar. We've got all sorts of devices. I'm not an expert on that, but what I care about is that
urządzenie o nazwie
the
TBMS.
picture matches the model. Now, this is something called TBMS. Probably somebody here in the room knows what this is. I don't.
Ale zróbmy to samo. Tutaj mam wgrane
But let's do the same thing. I've got the electrical model.
Mam urządzenie. Szafa TBMS.
It's a TBMS locker. And
Tutaj może jakoś zaglądnąć do środka, żeby
let's try to have a look inside.
No niestety, ale zgubiłem się całkowicie.
Well, I'm completely lost.
Próbuję się szybko odnaleźć.
I'll try to find where I am.
To niestety jest tak, że tutaj... Okej, może nie będę stał w miejscu. Tu mamy szafę TBMS.
So that's the TBMS box, and we've got RG and TOZ. That's the RG, the TOZ, so everything is correct.
W taki sposób wyłapujemy błędy.
And this is how we can spot mistakes.
Projekty dostaliśmy BIM-owe.
So we can check that to see if the project is BIM compliant.
I jeszcze tak chyba tutaj tyle chciałem pokazać z tego z wszystkich branż. Chciałem jeszcze pokazać tutaj.
And one more thing I wanted to show you, or maybe to boast about it a little bit. That's an electrical model
W oprogramowaniu
done in DDS CAD,
nie mieliśmy modelu, w którym
and we didn't have a model
zamodelowane kable.
before where all the cables were. We had never come across this before. Now, this might not be cables, this might be the cable ducts.
Tutaj z tymi kabelkami.
And the negative thing about it is that
Złości nie mają żadnych parametrów.
they don't have any parameters,
I nic na to nie
and
poradzi.
I can't do anything about it.
W takich przypadkach
But
trzeba sobie
in a
radzić
case like
w
that,
inny
you have
sposób.
got to make do with the other ways and means.
I w tym akurat przypadku
And what we can do here,
tu nawet jest pokazane,
You can see it here.
Tutaj screen z DDS-CAD-a leci tyle kabli.
we can see how many cables there are in a single
Generalnie
duct.
ten model zawiera to jest 38 MB.
38 megabytes in this.
Nie otwierają.
32-bit software does not work with it because there is too much information.
Naprawdę nic by nie otworzy, 34
If we added all the details of each individual cable or wire, then I don't think even a 64-bit software would open it because there would be too much information.
Przedmiar kabli,
So we've got this bunch of cables,
co zrobić.
and the quantities are not there.
Jeszcze chwilkę o BEP-ie.
And some words about
Ja o
BEP.
BEP-ie w ogóle nie jestem w stanie powiedzieć, bo to
I
jest,
can't really tell you anything about BEP, because, not now, because you could talk about it for hours.
punkt 000. To
But
jest
now, 000,
święta święta.
that's the point of reference. It's absolutely sacred. So a good idea is to put these cones there.
A później się okazuje, przy wgraniu do dowolnego
And then if you
oprogramowania,
upload it to any Open BIM
bądź
software,
InVision, wgrywamy na raz wszystkie pliki i patrzymy,
we upload all the
wchodzą w tym samym miejscu.
files and we look at whether these cones are in the same place. And only then can we be sure that the orientation of these designs is correct, because otherwise it might turn out that the 000 point is in different places.
Które są z-
Now, for the different floors,
Mamy kilka branż.
and they've got different types of installations, and we've got to
Wyświetlać.
display them together.
To żeby się
Then-
ten projekt przeglądało, musimy mieć dobrze ustalone
In order to be able to browse it properly, we've got to set the stories or the floors. Let me add electrics,
może wody.
ventilation,
Zaraz do tego wrócę.
and water and sewage.
Grupy obiektów, geometryczne,
We've
niegeometryczne.
got different
Nie
types
wszystko
of
modelujemy. Musimy
objects.
zapisać
Not
sobie, co
everything
można
can be
modeluje,
modeled
żeby
in
wzorysant
3D.
wycenia
If it
modelu,
cannot,
wiedział,
then the cost estimator has to know that there are some additional objects not modeled,
odnośnie dokumentacji
and they've
płaskiej.
got to
Parametry obiektów
take
rzeczy
that into
oczywiste.
account.
Musimy
We've got
wiedzieć,
the parameters of the objects,
jakie
and this is
parametry
quite
możemy oczekiwać.
clear.
To po
We
pierwsze.
have to
Po
know
drugie,
what parameters
czy nie każdą
are
garść parametrów
acceptable.
możemy
You
używać
cannot
każdego
just
software'u.
use any all kind of parameters.
De facto temat parametrów jest dosyć trudny.
And this is a
Na początku
difficult issue.
nazwa i opis.
We normally said name, description, and materials should be correct. And if that is correct, that's already a lot.
Określenie workflow.
Workflow and
w jaki
information
sposób ma
flow.
przebiegać. O chmurze już nie
Now,
wspomnę.
I'm not even mentioning the
Chmurę
cloud.
mogę pokazać.
I can show it.
Nie wiem jak. Tu mamy wszystko zostało podpięte pod Dropboxa.
All that has been connected to Dropbox, as our team folder.
Modele elektryki,
All the
wrzucane modele
electricity,
Ciekawe,
architecture,
mimo ustalenia
and
nazwy,
other models are
teraz
uploaded there.
2016 na końcu,
Sometimes
na
it
początku.
says 2016 at the end, sometimes at the beginning. So,
No nie przekonasz.
you just cannot make those architects remember
I tutaj mam wszystkie branże.
about how to name a file. Anyway,
To
if the floors are configured,
takie coś. Mam wszystkie rzeczy.
then I can do this, and all the right things follow. Electric installations,
Elektryk tutaj kabelki prowadzi.
so that's how the cables go.
Oczywiście mu się udawało
In most cases, the electrician designed it
nie wejść w kolizję.
properly. There are not too many clashes there.
Wtedy po prostu w ten sposób dużo łatwiej się przegląda projekt.
And it's much easier to browse the design like this.
Prawie, że kończę.
I'm nearly done.
I na koniec tak.
Right, so some final
Kwestia
comments.
informacji. No, ja to porównuję do efektywności.
Now,
Po pierwsze,
it's all about efficiency.
Oczywiście, informacje, trzymanie jej w ryzach, pilnowanie,
You've got to
ona była
be on top of your information.
poprawna.
You've got to make sure that this information is correct, that it's in the right place. You've got to use the right software. You don't have to use huge software packages. You can divide the task between the different types of software I've mentioned, and then I've got to select the right format.
Format natywny ArchiCAD.
Now, the ArchiCAD native format, obviously, is the way forward.
No idzie w C. I jeżeli chodzi o to, ja nie mogę pokazać jakiegoś przedmiaru z tego żłobka. Odgrzewałem jakiś stary
Without being able to show the quantities,
na którym właściwie staraliśmy się bić rekordy
I've got this video
w
here
programowaniu.
where we try to beat a record as far as quantities are concerned. This is a very quick bit of quantity,
Całe zbrojenie, które tutaj jest
and
pokazane,
all the reinforcements with different names.
informacji zaszytej
But one piece of information, which is in the IFC file,
Zuzia BIM, to jeszcze była Zuzia BIM, teraz
called-
już jest BIM Estimate. dlatego
that's now called BIM estimator.
Dosłownie w kilka kliknięć poukładaliśmy zbrojenie zgodnie z normą.
With literally a few clicks of the mouse,
Przed normą mogę
we've
pokazać.
then sorted it all out,
Dzięki temu,
and it worked.
z tego co widzimy,
As we can see,
projektowanie BIM jest pracochłonne,
designing in BIM is time consuming,
myślą dalej starymi metodami,
but
czyli
people still use old
mniej czasu na projekt.
approach that people think, right, the shorter the design phase, the better, so let's do it fast, let's not use BIM.
Zdarzy, że inwestor i tak dalej
But if the investor gives you more time, then naturally it's better.
To by było tyle z mojej strony.
That's it.
Zapraszam na,
Thank you.
na naszą stronę BIM-blog,
You are welcome to our
gdzie
bimblog.pl website.
może uda się odnaleźć.
You'll probably find some of the things I've said today on that website as well. Thank you.